don't like being critiqued or corrected, or they don't like when you put the mirror of themselves, like, their behavior, the things that they did in front of them, because we can point at people all the time, but when it's time for us to point at us, ooh, no. Or we could show the mirror of other, to other people as far as their faults, their flaws, their wrongs, that what they need to work on. But when it's time for us to look in the mirror, ooh, we don't want to look.
Peace, peace, peace. Then assalamu alaikum. It's your girl, the co-wife coach.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your girl, Mecca, the co-wife coach, and I am thrilled to welcome you again to another Poly Talk podcast. We are already on episode 5. Episode 5, and episode 5 is absolutely dear to my heart. So get yourself together, get you a pastry or a piece of fruit, a glass of water or a cup of tea, because we're about to dive into something really, really deep when it comes to this thing we call polygyny. And those are bars that I did not prepare. It just naturally and organically happened. So let's jump right into this discussion. When it comes to prioritizing your emotional needs in polygyny as a woman is absolutely imperative. Now, I say as a woman, it's absolutely imperative, but it's also just as imperative or important for a man to also prioritize his emotional needs. So I just want y'all to know this is not a one-sided situation. We're going to talk about this particular thing from a woman's perspective because that's who submitted the question. But I'm also going to give you a little bit of balance as far as when it comes to the male side. So let's stay tuned and jump right into topic. Okay, so the question that was submitted, it goes a little something like this. Hit it. What should I do if I feel like my husband is not prioritizing my emotional needs and concerns? So first and foremost, I want to really commend you. I'm sorry. I really want to commend you on submitting that question, because that is a question and that is an actual thing that a lot of women struggle with, not just in polygyny, but in monogamy too. See, I thought it was just a polygyny thing. No, when a spouse is not feeling as though that they are a priority to that other spouse, and you notice I said spouse to other spouse, not woman or wife to husband, because sometimes the roles change where that wife may not be prioritizing that husband. But we're going to get into that in a little. Just hear me out. So we're going to break this down into a few steps. The first step that we're going to jump into, it starts with you. It literally starts with you. Self-reflection. Now, the reason why I say self-reflection is because one of the things you want to do is you want to be able to have and go back to the time or a time when something occurred or happened and you felt like you weren't being prioritized. You felt like there was something going on. Go to that, because you're going to want to be able to have an example to go off of. Not just, I feel this way. You're like, okay, well, what made you feel that way? I don't know. I just feel this way. That's not a right answer. Because if you're going to talk to somebody about something, if you want to bring something to somebody's attention, you want to be able to have the examples that's going to be able to give them insight and have them also recall. You're reflecting, they're going to recall. They're going to recall that time. So then that way, hopefully within that moment of communication, they can be able to, the both of you can be able to reconnect in a way where, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let's go to the next step. So the next step is open communication. So at this point, you already did self-reflection. You have the moment or the example as far as what happened and what made you feel like you weren't being prioritized emotionally, and you're not feeling as though that you're connecting with your partner like you were before at one point, especially before polygyny was something that was a part of your portfolio as far as within your relationship and marriage. So you want to have open communication. And open communication and open dialogue also requires listening and actually hearing each other out. I always like to say open communication is more of a safe space type situation, because you want to talk to each other and you want to be able to hear each other out. You want to be able to share with no judgment. You want to be able to share without feeling as though that you're being attacked for feeling the way that you do, or bringing up a point that maybe they didn't like. Because sometimes people don't like being critiqued or corrected, or they don't like when you put the mirror of themselves, like, their behavior, the things that they did in front of them, because we can point at people all the time, but when it's time for us to point at us, ooh, no. Or we could show the mirror of other, to other people, as far as their faults, their flaws, their wrongs, that what they need to work on. But when it's time for us to look in the mirror, ooh, we don't want to look. Be like, no, I don't want that. So being able to have a moment of being open-minded, open-hearted, and open to, and your ears also being open to the point where you're able to hear exactly what they're saying while listening to what they're saying. Okay. In that open communication or safe space, you want to be able to do a few things, because even within that, we think, oh, I want to have a safe space, open communication, conversation. Let's go. It don't work that way. You want to make sure that you're considerate of the time. Like, hey, babe, when do you think you'll have some time to talk? I want us to, I wanted to set something up for us to be able to, just like, just have a conversation where it's chill, relaxed, this, that, and the fourth, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What's your availability look like? Y'all talk about that, because you want the person, you don't want to just throw it on the person. You don't know what they got going on their schedule, what's going on in their mind, how they're dealing with it within their day. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself the opportunity to have not just a safe space conversation, but a successful conversation within that safe space. Okay. So you also want to make sure that you're engaging calmly and honestly. Like, you're going to share your true heart, what you're feeling, the true emotions, transparency, vulnerability. You want to make sure that you're able to receive that with the other person if they're telling you something about you or about what's going on that you may not necessarily like. And you can be honest in disliking it or disagreeing with it, but we want to make sure that we're keeping the whole energy of safe, meaning calm, being able to hear each other out and be able to communicate in a rational and calm manner. Even if for some reason, if it becomes too emotional, you can say, you can have something where you can have a safe word. Ooh, a safe word where you can say pause, or you can say whatever it is that you come up with. Strawberries. I don't want to say pineapples, but if you know, pineapples, whatever the safe word is within that safe space, conversation and communication. Give yourself the moment. Y'all have the understanding where you say that safe word, step away, gather yourself, breathe, maybe splash your face with some water, take some, take a step outside, get some fresh air, and allow yourself to just breathe it in and breathe it out, to be able to calm yourself down, so that way you can receive that which is that's being shared within that safe space. Also, we want to make sure within that, in that conversation, we want to make sure we're using our I words. Like, this is not, you've been making me feel this way. Like, I've been feeling, a certain type of way due to A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And in order for the person that you're talking to be able to receive it a little bit well, where they don't feel like you're attacking them when you're saying you made me feel this way, you made me feel that way. It's like that pointing, that pointer finger is like, it could be a trigger finger, where you want to make sure that they're also going to be a part of the conversation, where they're included in a way that is also going to allow them to actually be present in a conversation. So let's go to step 3. Now, step 3 is very supportive of step 2. Now, step 3 is active listening. Now, we as women, sometimes when we have these conversations and forms of communication with our spouse, with our partners, we hear them, but we don't. We hear them, but we're not really listening, because we ready to like pow, pow, pow with whatever it is that we're feeling or whatever it is that we're thinking. But you want to make sure that you're actively listening, like a lot, and because sometimes not only are we're not literally actively hearing as well as actively listening, and we're thinking about what we want to say, sometimes we even interrupt. So active listening is allowing that partner to be able to finish their point or finish whatever it is that they're saying, so that way you can hear them and they can speak uninterrupted. And that should be a shared thing, not just you towards him, but him towards you. That is extremely important when it comes to open communication, because you can be an open communicator and you can have safe space, but if you keep talking over each other, even if it's calmly, if you're disrupting each other or interrupting each other, that right there within itself can bring on frustration and the lack of importance, the other party feeling as though that you don't respect what they're trying to say or what it is that they're trying to share within that conversation. So step 4 is seeking common ground together. Like what you want to do is you want to try to address some of the emotional requirements that you may need from your partner, but talking about how can we get to that together. Like you can ask suggestions, like if you're the active listening party, once they finish, ask them the question as to how can I better give you the things that you require from me emotionally? What does that look like to you? Ask them what it looks like to them. It's not to say that you may not give it to them exactly like that, but you're considering how they would like to be able to receive, how they would like to be able to be approached, how they want to feel. So then that way you could take that in, you could take note of it, and whatever it is that you actually put together, you can actually deliver it in a way where it is you. It's genuinely and sincerely and authentically you, but it's also serving the thing that they need. It's serving your purpose and giving them what they require from you emotionally, where they feel like they're a priority, like they're wanted, like they're loved. So step 5 is really important, and it's all about setting boundaries. One thing's for sure and two things for certain is you want to have clear boundaries when it comes to being in this particular type of relationship and marriage, which is polygyny. Boundaries is important across the board within any relationship dynamic. But in polygyny, you got to really pay attention to those boundaries. You don't want to just set them and then not have people follow through. Because if you're setting boundaries and share those boundaries and people are not following those boundaries, or you're not standing firm on the boundaries that is set, there's always going to be a problem. It's always going to be circled around back to a problem or issue that has not really been truly addressed. So when it comes to setting boundaries, it's like, okay, babe, this could be the husband. The husband can say, babe, I hear what you need. I hear what you require from me, and I understand that. But this is something that I'm going to ask you, because I can give you what you need, but you have to also be patient with me in this area, because I got this going on, I got that going on, and I know that these responsibilities are not yours, they're mine. But at the same time, give me the space to be able to kind of like come down or regroup and recoup, refuel, so that way I can be that person that you need, that husband that you need, that love that you need, that partner that you need. I also have needs too, and I understand where you're coming from, and I will honor those. And I understand your boundaries, but I need you to also make sure that you're following within these footsteps, as far as these boundaries that I'm laying before you, that I require in order for me to give you that which you require from me. And seen. Now, even though that may sound a little confusing because it's coming from me, you don't hear two voices, but I think you get the point. When we have boundaries that are set, us as women, we have to make sure that we are being mindful of other boundaries outside of the ones that we are setting for our own selves. Like, because it's a give and take. Like, I want you to respect my boundaries, but you also got to make sure you respect the other people's boundaries too. It can't be everybody respect mine and I do what I want when I want, as far as when it comes to y'all boundaries. It don't work that way. Because if you do that, then there's going to always be constant conflict. There's always going to be a really stenchy, funky, just negative cloud that is literally floating in between the dynamics of that family, that will not allow anybody or anything to really grow and thrive. And y'all hear me talk about like thriving in polygyny. Well, you got to boundary setting and respecting is absolutely one of the key things that will help with thriving, that will help grow thriving. It's like the fertilizer of it. When it comes to step 6, support network and consider involving other parties. You have me. I'm the co-wife coach. I am considered to be quote unquote a third party. There's therapists or other coaches or other advisors that will be considered to be a third party. Don't be afraid to utilize some of those outlets to be able to help you hands on, specifically helping you with a particular issue or issues that you may be having within your navigating the emotional ups and downs. Now, I put myself in the mix because I am not just talking about polygyny. I am in polygyny and I understand the ins and the outs, the ups and the downs and all arounds when it comes to the emotional navigations of polygyny from a woman's perspective. And also just taking a view from what it is that a male or man goes through, not just from my husband, but also from his father, because he was also an example where he was my first example of me seeing polygyny before I even got married. So having those experience parties to be of assistance and help may sometimes be the thing, maybe the nucleus to kind of bring things together in order for you to be able to have that moment of kind of like navigating through like the clouds of the emotional ups and downs, or even just being able to help you through steps 1 through 5, because sometimes it may be difficult for people to do it on their own. Sometimes they may need that other party that is a non-biased party that can help them go through what they need to go through in order for them to get to where they need to get to. I'm just saying. So, that's step 6. And then step 7 is having regular check-ins and actually maybe putting that on your schedule. And when I say regular check-ins, I'm not talking about with a third party person. I'm talking about with your husband or with your wife. Have those check-ins where y'all, as you're going through all of the different things and the changes and you're working through certain things and you want to check in and make sure you good, you cool, how's that, how we've been at this, we've been trying this for like 2 months now, as far as with all of these different steps. How are you feeling? Is it anything that you feel like you're missing out on? Is it anything that you think that you still need? Is it anything that you want to share as far as an experience? Like, should we try to switch it up? Or you want to check in to make sure, one, that everybody is doing the work or following through and following suit with the steps, upholding those things, like keeping each other accountable, and also just evaluating to see if there's been any growth. If it is, great, then keep on with what it is that you're doing. But if there's not really any growth, then we may need to kind of revise things and see if another way of or approach could actually work better. And then step number 8, self-care. Self-care is absolutely important. Make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do on your path as far as when it comes to taking care of yourself. And you may hear me say this quite often, but it can never be said enough, because we need those constant reminders when it comes to taking suit of being better, caring better, loving better, thinking better, speaking better, hearing better, and seeing better, if I didn't say it, about ourselves. Make sure that you're prioritizing you and your emotional ups and your emotional growth. You saw that in the beginning, like how this question started. This person is taking care. They're like, this is a step 1 for their self-care, because they have a question. They're not comfortable with a particular energy or a particular thing that's going on within their marriage currently right now. They ask the question in order for them to get assistance. Now, asking for assistance and getting assistance and doing the work, all of those things are self-care. So let's not negate that either. This is literally self-care, of being able to take the proper steps for you to grow in a communicative way, in an emotional way, and in a spiritual way, and in a connecting way with your partner, especially, as well as with yourself, especially. So let's make sure that we're keeping that in mind. And you want to make sure that you're allowing yourself different outlets and different ways to be able to even take on self-care. Like you may have the things that you normally do, but throw in a few new things from here and there from time to time, whether it's different activities or different outings, different events, different, circles of people, or different things that you would do with yourself that will allow you to kind of expand your list of self-care when it comes to you prioritizing yourself, because you want somebody else to prioritize you, but you got to make sure that you also are your own top priority. Okay. I hope that was of great benefit. And by following these steps and considering possibly like, some type of coaching or advisory or counseling, these things will possibly help you navigate towards making, or you're addressing the emotional, like prioritizing from both your partner as well as yourself, in order for you to be able to be in a better position of how you feel and how you see yourself within your marriage as well as your polygynous family dynamic. Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this particular episode of the Poly Talk podcast. I hope that this was of great benefit, and I'm hoping that you understand that your emotional well being matters. It absolutely matters, and making sure that you put the proper steps into place in your life in order for you to thrive in that area of self, marriage, and even polygyny, it is very possible. We're going to get ready to wrap this joint up. I appreciate you all coming out and joining today. In the meantime, between time, may you all have a beautiful, productive, reflective, growing forward day and remaining week on purpose and with purpose. It's your girl and your host, the co-wife coach. That's right, that's me, Mecca Nandi, signing out till next time. Until then, y'all take care. Peace. And assalamu alaikum.